And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey's Researchers Reports. I'm your host, Kerry Daniela. With me, as always, she does all the work here, and I do a little of nothing. So, how are you tonight, Daniela?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, it's so good to see you. Good to be here. Good to be back on. I've got like 2 gigs of internet left, so the Friday Night Late Show might be done by somebody else. We'll have to wait and see how this goes. But hey, got a great show planned for you tonight. Our guest for this evening, he is the creator of No Such Thing on YouTube, CORNELL Hanratty. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Man, it's great to see you here. Well, what we would like to see, because CORNELL does field work with David Wilbanks. I don't know if you've watched any of David Wilbanks, Bigfoot and More is his channel. You'll see CORNELL goes out with him a lot, and we're trying to get CORNELL to 1,000 subscribers so he can go live from the field. So if you haven't subscribed to No Such Thing on YouTube, go do that right now. The more we help these guys out, the rising tide raises all the ships, and that's what we try to do here. So
I've just put a link now in the chat, and it's also in the description anyway.
Yes, links in the description. You guys in the chat, if you're not subscribed, it's quick. Plus, if you don't subscribe, you'll probably have bad luck for like 5 years. So,
oh yeah, I'm going to put an Irish curse on them.
Did you really want to take that chance? But the guy I worked with, Rusty, he asked me if I was superstitious. I said no, it's bad luck. Is it really? Yeah, I've heard that several times. Is it? Well, we have, for those that don't know anything about you, CORNELL, why don't you just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Wow, God, I don't even know where to start.
I was born, I lived
1970, right in the start of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and
maybe not that far back.
Okay, so I came to the US about 21 years ago. Just on a wing and a prayer, $700, and I just came here on a 3-month visa and ended up staying for 21 years. But before that, I kind of wrote for a feature magazine, one of these magazines, and it was actually Belfast. Our office was located in, and I would be the feature writer for all the weird stuff. You know, animal cruelty, the KKK, the Algerian genocide, all this kind of weird stuff. And I would like write all these articles on like Scientology, Satanism. You know, I loved all of that stuff. I always really did. And it would also get me out of the office because we had no internet at the time. So I would just go to the library and spend all day out of the office researching these topics, and I really got into it, you know? So when I came to America, it was nose to the grindstone. I just like worked and built my own drywall plastering business and started a family. And I really wanted to get into writing again, but I saw that that wasn't a very fruitious field. Everything was going online, and I had to think of another way to be creative. And I'd heard about these podcasts, and I started listening to podcasts, and I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. These people have their own podcasts on conspiracy theories and history and the paranormal. And I love that whole thing. And then listen to Joe Rogan. Of course, we all listen to Joe Rogan. And, you know, maybe 10 years ago, I was, wow, I should start a podcast. I could really get into this, but you know, what have I got to say? But I decided to do a podcast, and it was first called The Talk Tank. That's all I could think of, The Talk Tank. And it was going to be a podcast just about everything. And I would interview like prisoners, district attorneys, ghost hunters, Bigfoot researchers and stuff. And when I was doing it, I noticed when I did like anything on Bigfoot, it would like skyrocket. People were so interested in Bigfoot, and so was I. And when I spoke to the Bigfoot people, they were the most interesting, you know. They were the most open-minded. And this was the most credible. Like, I love UFOs, I love ghosts and stuff, but there's something about Bigfoot that, because it's so close to us, you know.
Right.
And most of the stuff that, like, a couple of people I spoke to, Alexander Petikoff, you've had him here.
Yeah.
Crystal Panic, people like that, and I'm like, wow, this is really, like, what's the word for it? Fascinating. This Bigfoot thing actually could be real. You know, there's no way to prove the ghost thing or the UFO thing. We've already got that covered, but the Bigfoot thing was like, which I thought was kind of ridiculous, but interesting at first. When I started to speak to people, I was like, wow, this is like a real mystery, and it's been going on for a long, long time. So I changed the name of the channel to No Such Thing, which is, you know, self-explanatory. It's a kind of a play on words. And I started to get more and more Bigfoot people on. I was listening to Sasquatch Chronicles and you guys. I mean, I've listened to your encounter, I think it's 3 times. I've actually listened to that documentary you made like 3 times, 3 or 4. And I just find it, the way you tell it and the credibility that you have and the honesty that I just totally 100% believe what happened to you, you know? And there was another one, the Mike Woolley encounter. I've listened to that. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, it happened like 60 miles away from where mine was.
Yeah. I looked on the map, and it's right in the border of Texas, right where that happened, near the big thicket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that whole line right up to Oklahoma. And then, of course, Steve from Bigfoot, not Bigfoot more, Steve from How to Hunt, his encounter, and it wasn't that major. He just walked through this like pass one day, and he looked up, and there was a silhouette, and he said, "Hey, any luck?" And he said the way it moved. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, this terrifying encounter or anything, but the way he told it was like, wow. That the way he told it was just the way this Bigfoot reacted when he spoke to it, like it had been seen and it reacted, and it made this movement that, oh, I've been seen. You know, just stories like that make it authentic. So I just decided to go all in Bigfoot. I do, like, you know, paranormal and ghosts sometimes, but my passion is in Bigfoot. And so I started to make all these connections. And I saw Dave Wilbanks on Reddit. Somebody had posted a video of him on Reddit just doing one of his stories. And he was just standing in the middle of the woods telling the story. And I'm like, wow, there's another guy. He's credible. I could tell right away that he's just not one of these BSers. So I contacted him through Reddit, and I said, I want you on my show. And the rest is history. And then I met, you know, through him, I met Mark Copeland, Troy Hudson, and all of these guys were just like so believable. And like, you know, they have, well, Dave Wilbanks has a law enforcement background.
Right.
You know, so right away that lends credibility. And I spoke to military people, and right away that lends credibility too, because people like that just don't, you know yourself, they just don't run around telling tall stories.
There's more to lose than there is to gain. And
right.
the reason that it's sounds believable is because it's true. These people are experiencing this. I did see this thing. And I think there is something to them being busted in a sense. You know, it's almost like it angers them in a way. You know, whenever I had seen the one I saw, all I saw was just a face through the bush, you know, maybe the top of the shoulders a little bit. But I waved at him. And I wonder if that is not what really caused the whole, whatever, you know, everything that happened after that. You know, aside from being out there all the time and being around them, and I believe them knowing who I was and my notions and tendencies and I think all that stuff had a lot to do with it. But I just wonder how much that pissed him off, waving at him. If he thought anything about it, well, hey, this is not scaring him. Let me see if I can actually scare this guy off.
So a question I always had for you was, so you've been going there for 7 years,
Oh, yeah.
and they're skittish, like Bigfoot, like retreat into they're like the Russians in the Second World War. They retreat back into their territory. So, but this guy decided, I'm going to show myself to this guy that's been here for 7 years and make myself totally vulnerable to. Do you think he was just like a rogue Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot that just said, enough, we're going to get this guy out of here, he's taking our kills? What do you think was on his mind?
I think it was a lot of things. I think just the interactions we had over the 7 years. I had hunted my entire life and never experienced the things that I had experienced here, but always wrote them off. It was just a different place. There's something different about this place. Daniela had to go fix some things, by the way. She's actually back. Do I need to bring you in, Daniela? Oh, wait.
There you go. Sorry about that.
So what I think is they had watched me for so long. They knew who I was. We had interactions. I'd actually yelled at them several times. I think maybe they thought I already knew they were there. So I think that had a lot to do with it. That, and I'd always done the same things year after year. I was very easily patterned. I'd only hunted during deer season, but I was still out there throughout the year just because I didn't care to be around anybody else. This was, and the habitat, this place, you'd have to see it. It looks like, it's like from a topo map, it looks like a hand with just 3 fingers and a thumb. And this bottom wraps all the way around the end. And then there's these hills and these finger bottoms that come up, all deciduous trees through the bottom, really wet, year round. The creek that runs through there is called Terrible Creek, which probably means something, but pines all up in the higher areas. It was just perfect habitat. It was full of deer, full of wildlife, a lot of predators. So I understand why they liked being there. No one ever went out there until I started going. But 7 years is a long time for them to be around, and really not expose themselves at all. And if I was able to really remember and go through day to day everything that happened all the time, I'm sure there might have been times where I might have seen a shadow or something where that was, I thought might be a deer, but okay, I saw something move out of the corner of my eye, but now it's nothing. There was probably those instances, but what I think is I was doing something different, and I was actually succeeding. The only 2 times because I think they tried to run me out of there before, whenever I was calling with a doe bleat. When I get in that tree and I do the call, and they would just come crashing toward me through the woods, breaking limbs, and then just get to the edge and stop. Well, my frame of reference, it's a big buck, and he's outsmarting me. I cannot get this guy. And it made me hunt a lot harder actually for him. So I think they were trying to run me out of there then. And maybe they didn't mean to run me off completely. Just, hey, you need to stop doing this. But the second time, the one where I actually saw the thing, I was calling, and it was working. So I had all these turkeys coming. So I think there was a whole, I wouldn't say it was very harmonious, but a mix of things that I think they just had their limit. They had enough of me messing around in their area, taking their food, and they weren't going to let me have the turkeys. That's for sure.
Because turkeys are probably like Snickers bars for them.
I don't know. They lay a lot of eggs,
Yeah.
Who knows? There were no gobblers, which I thought was very interesting. But you look at this, and if Sasquatch are as proficient as we believe they are, turkeys on the roosts are pretty easy pickings. Otherwise you're really not going to catch them. They're just not going to let you get close enough. They have such good eyesight. They see you coming. That's it. They're gone. Well, up on the roost, and which one would you get? I'd get the big one. If it was me. So I can imagine that's why I saw no gobblers. There were a bunch of jakes and a bunch of hens. That's why they all came. If it would have been gobblers there, they would have come first, and I would have probably shot one of them, and then I would have never seen the others. But because there were no gobblers, the rest of them just came in. Plus, I think they had already been in there. It had been a week or 10 days that I'd burned that off, that area. And then, you know, turkeys will get in there and scratch around the seeds that pop and bugs that are dead. You know, they kind of like that. So that's what I think. Could be 1,000% wrong. I do know this. It wasn't just a one-off. Like he was passing through and I happened to be there and he came up and bitched at me. I think it's because it was me and because I had been around them for so long. And that's the only thing that makes any sense to me.
Now, this story, do you ever get sick telling it? Do you always, like, when I hear people tell Bigfoot stories, like I just had an experience in the Comanche Mountains, and I can almost remember every single second, the time, the date. I mean, I can remember everything. So when people tell me stories and they're like, well, I think it was on the 21st or the 22nd. I don't know what time of day it was. I become suspicious because when something like that happens to you, it's almost like a military thing when you're in a situation where you're totally alive and you savor every second. Do you have that kind of a thing where you remember every second and every emotion that you had?
No. There are things that are very vivid, and then there are gaps that I just kind of fill in. Like me seeing him and then not seeing him. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that long. When I think about the whole thing, it could have been a couple of minutes for all I know.
Right. Time can be
right. It's relative for sure. But when he came up, when I saw him coming toward me to the tree, and I'm thinking, I'm about to go off on this dude because he's completely and totally messed up my whole thing I got going on here. From then until the time he walked away was less than a minute. It was quick. That much I know. But from when I first saw him and when he stuck his tongue out. Now, when I tell it, it's always after he started shaking and I was already out but it could have been before that. I just remember him doing it. But I can't place exactly when. So that's just where I put it when I tell it, because he did do it. And it was a very strange thing. But it's been 14 years at this point. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it in some aspect or other.
Yeah.
Obviously. But hey, that's enough. We're not here.
I know. I'm sorry. I always wanted to ask you these questions.
Everybody knows. My time's out anyways. Daniela's.
Oh, is it my turn now? Well, I don't know what did you cover? Have you covered your recent encounter or no? Well, I know that's been. I know you had that. I know about it, but you can tell people about it. But I know it's also been playing on your mind, and I feel like when you put your video out on the my encounter one, like you've played these different scenarios in your mind of what, and this is the effect that these things can have on people. So tell us about what happened when you were with David and his son. Well,
I'd been down to Oklahoma before, in October with David, and I'll give you the layout. You know, Dave and I just had a Sonic. You know, we're like eating burgers, and we decided to drive into his area, and we're driving. It's nighttime by the time I get there because it's taken me a while to get there from Fort Worth. You know, I get there late, and I'm gonna keep driving, and it just goes on forever. And I'm like, are we there yet? No, it's going to be another 10 miles or whatever. And it just kept, you know, getting deeper into the woods and deeper into crossing bridges and, you know, going over like potholes. And I'm like, crap, this is in the middle of nowhere. For me, this is in the middle of nowhere anyway. We got to this campsite, and I'm like, man, this is pretty remote. And I'm like, you come here by yourself, Dave? He's like, oh, yeah. This is... So we get there, and, you know, nothing much happens in the first visit. The second visit, I was there like in March 19th to the 21st. And I was there with the son Elijah. And this is Dave from Bigfoot and More for anybody that wants to check his videos out. I have some videos on it too, but the first night I put him at an H4N Pro. It's what I use to interview people in person, but it's very sensitive. So I put it like 100 yards up onto the ridge where we think there may be activity. And I caught some audio there. I caught a whoop that's probably the loudest whoop I've ever heard. And we didn't even hear it. And Dave was like, well, maybe we were all sleeping, but I listened to it back and we weren't sleeping because you could hear us at the camp. Well, you could hear me because I was the loudest. I have a big mouth. It's got me into trouble a lot of times. But, you could hear us at the fire breaking sticks and, telling jokes and laughing and stuff. But you could hear this whoop. But it must have been as far away from the audio recorder on the other side. So we didn't hear it. I don't know how we didn't hear it. But I got a load of tree knocks, load of rock clacking. And of course, I didn't know all of this until I got home. So Dave is like, well, let's try it. Let's go down towards the bottoms, this swampy area. Let's go down that way away from the stream so we can hear better. So we did that the second day. And we pitched our tents and walked down to the bottoms. It wasn't very swampy, but it probably is when it's wet. But there's a lovely river there, and there's a lot of I don't know what you call the vegetation, scrub brush and like trees that just went for a long, long time. You couldn't see very far into them. And it was very quiet, much quieter than the day before. And we all commented on it. I think we did a bit of fishing. And, when we got back up to camp that night, it was like so quiet. And I hear all these people talking about their Bigfoot experiences and how the woods go silent and stuff. And yeah. But when you actually experience it, you realize what they're talking about. It goes dead silent. It's like there's not a sound in the forest. So I put my audio recorder up again, and we sat around the campfire for a while, and we all went to sleep. But I mean, that whole day I felt like we were being watched. We were being cased out. We heard Dave had the parabolic microphone, and we did hear bipedal walking off up. There's a big ridge, like this whole way. There's a ridge, and that's where I thought they were, and that's where I think that we were being watched from. But we went to bed anyway. And Dave and my tent were very close together, like 4 feet apart. And somewhere around between 3 and 3:30 in the morning, I woke up. Excuse me. And I could hear footsteps. Outside the tent was all just hard packed dirt with some leaves. And I could hear these footsteps just crunch, 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 crunch. It was unmistakable. It wasn't some with 4 legs. And it wasn't the guys because they were sleeping. I could hear one of them snoring. And I knew right away. And I'm like, okay, if I make a sound, this thing's going to hear me. I couldn't move. I was like, this thing's going to come over. Because I knew already, I think I knew what it was already. And the terror, when you wake up at 3:30 in the morning, sometimes you have a nightmare and you're kind of freaked out and you can't go back to sleep. And I had this paranoia about me, and I could hear this walking between, it sounded like right in front of our tent. And I didn't even want to blink, My phone was right here, down by my sleeping bag on my right arm. I didn't even want to reach for it because I didn't want to make a rustling sound with my sleeping bag. I was terrified. I've never been as scared as that, not for a long time. Not since I was a kid. I remember I thought I heard a banshee outside my window when I was like 13 years old on Halloween night. It turned out to be a cat in heat. But that's how scared I was. And I didn't want to move because I'm like, if I bring any attention to me, there's the possibility that there's an 8-foot tall monster outside my tent. And you know, you can say, well, they're harmless, and but I didn't expect. I thought maybe we would hear some whoops, tree knocks, maybe some like walking in the distance, maybe a couple of rocks getting thrown, but I didn't expect this thing to come right into the camp. This thing was right here, and I could tell these guys were sleeping. One of them was snoring, so I think it was Dave. So I just imagined that his son was snoring. So I felt totally alone, and I was lying there, just on my back, listening to this, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening. I didn't expect this. So I was like, sorry. Now I told this story like the day after and the day after that, and I was kind of like a bit rattled, and I didn't tell it right. So that's why I made a video about it, because I felt I had all the details and I could tell them, fluently. But what happened was I was lying there probably a minute, and I went like this. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lie here. I'm going to be really, really still, and it's going to go away, And when I go like this, it's all going to be over, or I'm going to go back to sleep. And when I took my hands away from my ears, I think I immediately yelled to Dave and Elijah. I mean, they're packing. They've got like 9mm. Not that we're going to, go out guns blazing and shooting at stuff, but it's just a psychological thing. So I yelled for them, and they woke up. We all got out of the tent, and we shone the flashlights around. There was nothing, and I wasn't getting back into the tent. Not a chance. This is 3:30 in the morning. I'm like, Dave, open your truck. I ain't getting into your truck. And he's like, are you sure? It's kind of packed and there's not much room. I don't care. I'm getting into your truck. And I got my sleeping bag, locked the doors, and I'm like sitting in the sleeping bag, and I'm like, this thing's going to come back, and it's going to come over to my window and stick. Do you remember that picture Mark Copeland showed the other day? That white face, like leather face. If this thing sticks its face in the passenger side window, I'm just going to have a heart attack. So I put the whole sleeping bag over my head and just went back to sleep. And I go over that, the 15 minutes or whatever it was, I go over and over and over that, analyzing it, thinking of all the details. And that's why when people tell stories and they get the date wrong and all this stuff, I get skeptical, because I can remember 90% of what happened. I don't know how long I had my hands over my ears. I don't know how, I don't know how long it was before I yelled for the guys. Like small details like this, but it was very visceral, I think is the word. I remember almost everything, and I remember how I felt. Like when I put my hands over my ears, I could feel my heart just, I can imagine like, being in one of these Middle Eastern countries and ISIS are coming around and they're going to like kill everybody, like how your heart would be thumping. This is what my heart was doing. It was thumping so hard. It was noisier to have my hands over my ears than it was not to, because you could feel the blood pumping and vibrating in your ears. It was so loud. It was like a freaking orchestra. It was crazy. And I didn't expect this to happen. And I'm 90% sure it was a Sasquatch.
Yeah. What else could it be?
I can't. There's no way it would have been a person, because we were in the middle of nowhere. There was nowhere anywhere. And you don't go around an Oklahoma campsite just like looking for shit. Plus, there wasn't, sorry about the swearing, there wasn't, if it had been a bear, there was like a tray that we had been cooking steak in, and there was snacks and the cooler and stuff, it would have messed around with stuff like that. So there's nothing else it could have been.
Well, you talk about memory and remembering things, and I have a pretty decent memory. And the best way any of us can remember anything is being able to attach it to something else. There's no more powerful attachment than an emotion, whether it's fear or anger or, even happy thoughts and memories, those, I think that's what it is. When you actually are able to remember fine details, it's because you've attached it to this emotion. It's affected you in a way. And it's almost, to me, a dead giveaway that these creatures are emotionally intelligent because of the broad range of behavior that they display, from, not just hiding, but chasing people, the bluff charging. I don't want to sit here and go through the list of things that Sasquatch does, but it's the same to me. It's the same. They're an emotional creature, which suggests they're self-aware, have free will, just like we do. Human primates, the way I see it.
Well, that's what freaks me out about it, that they are self-aware and they are like us. And that's one of the scarier things. If it was just a big monster, like a grizzly bear or something, you can kind of evade them and like take precautions. But with this thing, I think it can outsmart you.
Sure. But you're talking about a bear and deer and anything else that aren't self-aware. They're slave to their stomach or to their instincts. Not saying that these creatures aren't instinctive, but they can choose.
Right.
They can be just as hungry as any bear and still choose not to go over there and take whatever bait or whatever you've put out there for them. I don't think bear and deer would do that. Maybe a deer might, but he's got to go through something first. He's got to be spooked. And I think as far as these creatures are concerned, and this will be the last thing I say on this, is if there ever is to be a connection, it all has to do with trust. No different than any other animal in the wild that wants to be around us. These creatures really don't want to be around us other than, I suppose, watching us. But if you ever develop that level of trust, just like you would with any other animal, baby coyotes, baby bobcats, baby bears, they end up being tame and okay around people. You've developed that level of trust. If that could ever happen with Sasquatch, then I think we would have a lot more answers, and hopefully somebody would break their camera out.
Oh. What was some, I know you said your phone was close to you and you're thinking about if it ever happened again, this is what I'd do. But obviously picking up the phone was the last thing you were thinking of. But
I was thinking of it, I just couldn't move.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make a sound.
What do you think you could do differently next time, or do you not think you could?
Well, I think next time I'll have like a audio recorder in the middle of the campsite. I think that maybe, I'll be expecting it next time. I wasn't expecting it this time. I could maybe have my phone closer, like in my sleeping bag beside me. And I know the zipper's kind of loud, so I don't know, but I didn't want to touch the zipper. Obviously, it's loud as hell. It was cold too, so it was kind of hard to open. So I don't know what I would do differently, but I would definitely have like something in the campsite. I had the audio recorder way up on the ridge, like 100 feet away. So I would probably have that down, right outside our tent. But then if we do that, like Dave has camped there for 20 years and he's never had something come into the tent, but he's been on a cot. He doesn't sleep in a tent. This was the first night that he ever slept in a tent, So I think that, like, we were all in tents. Nobody was in cots. So I think that they felt comfortable enough to come into the campsite and have a look around because no one was outside. So I think that that's a modus operandi that we'll go with going forward. I think we should sleep in tents. Next time I'm going to sleep in a big tent with like lots of guys.
What about setting up some static cameras outside, night vision or whatever, just running?
Well, they probably won't come in then because I think that they know that they're there.
Well, that
right?
would be why I put them out there. Me, of course.
Oh, to keep them away? Yeah, true.
There's got to be a way you can do this where they're not going to know. Hide it inside something, maybe where you're just kind of. Technology is getting so small.
I think everybody's tried. Everyone has tried that though, haven't they? And have no success.
No, I haven't heard of anyone that's tried this.
Did
I
you
think
guys
it's
have
always the consensus that it won't work, so they don't try it. At least I've seen videos that are 20 years old where someone had a camera out, and you see this Sasquatch comes up and gets in the cooler. It's sitting on a picnic table. Why didn't he know that camera was there, or did he even care? Was so interested in what was in that cooler. I think either way, either you're going to have a camera out and they're not going to come, or you're going to be in your tent and they are going to come and you're not going to experience it anyway. So I would rather put the camera out and at least try and know that I gave it a shot, and maybe feel a little bit more secure, when I'm in my tent, and just have answers. If something does come in, maybe it would be an answer if it is something else, that you have a camera and you hear something come in and it sounds like one of these creatures, and you look and it's coons,
a bear. Yeah.
Or whatever. So I think maybe it will at least answer some questions. If you have them coming in when you are in your tent, you put the camera out, they don't come in, that's an answer too. So that's just kind of how I see it.
Do you not think you're going to feel quite vulnerable again in a tent? Are you up for doing it again?
Am I going to feel vulnerable?
As opposed to sleeping in a car or truck or whatever?
No, I think I'll feel a lot better next time because, like Dave says, Dave is off the mind that if these things really wanted to hurt you, they would. But that's hard to tell me at 3:30 in the morning when it's outside my tent. But maybe he's right, and maybe they know that we're armed, and like a slightest injury could be fatal to a Sasquatch. So they're not that stupid. But
situational. I believe it's all situational. You could say the same thing about a bear, say the same thing about a mountain lion. If they wanted to get you, they would.
Right.
But if you're in that position where they're cornered or they're hungry, they will get you. And we know that. We know bears will attack. We know mountain lions will attack, but they don't just come and hunt us down. I think it's any different with this creature. You put them in a position where they can get you, and I think they absolutely will.
Well, the thing about it was, Dave's been going here for 20 years to this area.
They know him.
I think so.
Makes sense to me.
I wouldn't do it. He goes there by himself and just hangs out in the cot. Dave has law enforcement training, and I think he's been trained in that field where he can keep his calm. I think that's part of his trade, so to speak. Dave's like the guy in Vietnam. If you ever watch war movies, he's the one that's keeping his calm while everybody else is losing their crap. That's the type of character he is. He's very calm and collected. I'm the complete opposite. So, like, somebody like Dave is very good for me because I'm very superstitious and skittish. Being brought up in that.
Maybe that's what drew them in. Dave's never had anything come through camp, and then you camp with him, and there you go.
Why is Dave in a tent? Why is Dave in a tent? He's not usually in a tent. We're usually watching it. We're usually watching him from 15 feet away. Let's get a little closer.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. So.
Now, you were telling us before about another encounter. Was it your
Kentucky?
Oh, my wife's cousin. They lived on the edge of the Daniel Boone Forest, just in a little brick. I don't think you would say it's a shack, but it's just a brick house on the edge of the Daniel Boone Forest. They own some property there. And my wife's cousin, he's the same age as me. He's around 50. And he went dirtbag riding into the forest, and the dirtbag broke down. And he had to walk the whole way home to his grandmother's. And he was being paralleled, you know. He could hear this thing paralleling him. And he didn't know what it was. And he did that thing where you stop. And then it took an extra couple of steps. So we knew it wasn't just an echo. And this went on for a while. And after a while, he got really scared, and he ran the whole way to his grandmother's house. And this thing ran too. Obviously, it was just escorting him out. But he said that his grandmother's backyard backed onto the Daniel Boone Forest. And he said when he got up to his grandmother's back door, he turned around and he saw this creature in the wood line, and it had red eyes. And I can't remember what he said about the face. I don't know if he said it was human or gorilla-like, but he said it had red eyes and it was huge. It's like 8 feet tall. I've tried to get him on the podcast, but man, and I've tried so many times. Some people don't want to come on and tell the story, like they don't want to relive it, or they just get nervous about being on a podcast. I'm not sure. But yeah, I've been trying to get him on for like a year because it's such a credible story, you know. And the rest of the family, you know, I met with my wife's aunts and stuff. He's like, oh yeah, he had a Bigfoot encounter, and you know, they're all kind of like chuckling. I'm like, what?
That's why you don't want to come on right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
People like that, I try to sell them on the importance of it, of putting their story out there. And if it just helps one person, then to me, it's worth it. Maybe what you experienced, it's not worth it, but you know, get something out of it, give something out of it. And I think that's what we should all be doing.
Well, my whole thing is about people that snigger at Bigfoot. It's just people that are either totally not interested and incurious, or people that just haven't researched it. If you research this and you pay some attention to it, you will see people like yourself, people like Mike Woolley, people like Steve from How to Hunt. And, you know, it doesn't take much to ask the question, are these guys just full of crap, or are they credible? You know, and put two and two together and you realize there's something going on here, you know. And that's what happened to me, and that's why I started the Bigfoot podcast, you know. A lot of my podcast is about, like, I interviewed a lot of people, but half of it is me going into the field. That's one of the most fun parts. I mean, I love talking to people to gather knowledge, but just like going to Oklahoma or even just around here and doing some investigations and stuff, I like to break it up. You know, there's enough interview shows out there where it's just interview after interview after interview, but you got to break it like you do. You make documentaries and you get out there and speak to people and stuff, and you go around the country. I like that model.
They're just few and far between, but you know, going back to that, we should all, no matter what your level of involvement, we should all look at ourselves as someone who's responsible for helping, you know, and it's also important to identify the enemy within before you go snickering at someone else, because you have to look at yourself before you look at this other person. Then once you've identified that, you can look at this person and then decide, this is their family. They know this guy, and they're snickering at him,
right?
Like it's some kind of joke. What they're not looking at is themselves. And I think that happens with a lot of people in the subject. It's just too hard for people to grab a hold of. I get it. I understand it. But we have to put this stuff out there as much as possible and try to help them understand that we're not a bunch of crazy people. And some of us need this.
Now, what is your view on, I know you're a proponent of Bigfoot becoming accepted into the mainstream. I'm kind of very wary of that.
Why?
I have notes written here. Why I'm aware of that? Well, I think there's a lot of negative connotations that can come from that. Number one. My main concern is that you won't be able to research it anymore. It'll be in the hands of a higher up authority. You won't be able to go out there and, I know most of us are incognito and we're not like, banging on trees and stuff, but I'm worried that it'll be so protected that it'll be closed off from people like us to gain more understanding. Another thing that I'm worried about is it will become littered with bad actors. If there's money to be made from it, reality shows, people swooping in there to make money out of it.
Where have you been the last 20 years?
We're there now, aren't we? This is now.
On, man. I mean, that's the here and the now.
I know, but they're not accepted though. They're laughed at. I'm talking about mainstream.
I don't care about that.
You don't think they could do damage?
Well, I mean, damage. I think more damage is done. This is just one thing that's kept from us. We're so well protected. I was talking to my friend John about this earlier. We're so well protected. We don't even know what the walls are protecting us from. That's how much is being kept from us. This is just one thing we're trying to expose here because of the effects that it does have on people when they do run into it. As who knows how frequent that is actually, but they're out there. It's the truth. Why do we want to keep the truth held down? Who cares if you can go out and see it, experience it? And who cares about them? I mean, to a degree, of course, live and let live. I respect their right to life. I care more about the people that are affected by having an encounter or seeing one of these creatures because they don't know. Now, I'll say this: fear as an antecedent, it's a good tool. When you're in a place, and because you're aware, because you have a certain level of awareness, you begin to feel a little fearful. Okay. To me, that's preparation. It is preparing you for what you could possibly see and encounter. Okay. It's the sudden moment of realization that affects you. It's what affected me. If I would have known, if I would have been aware, even remotely, I don't believe I would have gone through what I had to go through. I don't want anybody else to ever have to go through that. It's not right. It is not right, especially if there's some ABC agency out there, some compartmentalized section of government that knows all about these creatures. Fine. If it's brought out into the mainstream and we're not allowed to go out and research them anymore, I don't see that happening. This is the United States. Still, we're still free to go do things. What I think it would affect more than anything is going industry in the woods. PETA, there would be years of litigation with PETA just logging an area. You'd have to get some expert to go out and see if there was Sasquatch in the area. Yay, nay. And then you're talking greased palms, all kind of politics involved in that before anything would ever happen. I can see those things happening. But if it's just made known, hey, you may want to look out for this. It's a possibility. They're out there. I don't see anything wrong with that. I really don't. I don't think it's going to keep people out of the woods. It may force more people in. And if there are laws out there set in place to protect them, then you're not going to get the people out there with the rifles hunting them as they are now. There's a bounty on this thing. That's like putting a bounty on a person.
In Oklahoma?
Yeah. I mean, as much as people treat this as a novelty, the people that have actually experienced it, it's anything but. And that's why you see all these, just like myself, anybody else that's doing anything, even remotely noteworthy. Not that we are, but we're doing our best. We're putting everything we can out there as far as information, and people are either going to believe it, going to accept it, or they're not. All we can be is ourselves, put out there what we think, what we know, what we've experienced. People can either accept it or not. But I do believe if they ever come across and see anything that we've done or anyone else that's in this same arena has done, they're going to think about it when they're out there. That's all we want them to do.
So they're not going to see it as an abomination from hell. They're going to
Maybe
expect.
that's their prerogative if they want to see it that way. It could affect all kinds of things. There's probably a really good reason they keep it hid. I like to think that there is, but to me, it's not nearly as good enough as the people that it affects. It's just not good enough. They need to know, at least to a degree. Let us know something.
Okay, so I know this exists, 95%, but if I still ran across this in Leominster State Forest in Massachusetts, I would still have a mini heart attack.
Right.
Even though I'm aware.
Right, but it's not going to go on affecting you as it would if it were some sudden moment of realization. I'm only speaking from experience. It's just it's post-traumatic stress is what it is. People that go to war know they're going to war, but they don't know what they're getting into until they're there. When their best friend is laying beside them and his body parts are missing, and you know he's gone. That's a profound effect. You know, even though they try to tell you, and you know, you're going to war, you're going to fight for your country and possibly die for it, until you get there and experience it. You become someone else. You become a completely different person. Everyone I've ever seen or talked to that has experienced this creature in any real true emotional way, where it had an emotional grab and effect on them, changed who they were. It changed the way they think. It changed the way they thought about things and that they always thought about, because now this creature's not on your radar. It's not a part of your paradigm of everything you believe and how the natural world works, especially if you're an older person and you've been ingrained into your sensibilities. Now here's this, and you have to force it in somewhere because we don't know enough about it to make it fit. If you go looking, you're going to find 1,000 different answers for the same question. Which one's the right one? You know, you have to really decide for yourself, but you still have to fit it in there somewhere. And that changes things. It changes the way you think about the natural world. It has to. If you're a normal person, a cognitive, rational, thinking human being, it can't do anything else to you but change how you think of everything going forward. What else is real? Oh my, now you go looking into all these other things. I know because I did the exact same thing. You're not just looking for Sasquatch, you're looking at ogres and trolls, you're looking at ghost stories and vampires and werewolves. Are these things true too? It's a whole wave. And I went through it for years. And until I felt I was comfortable. I think everything's good. It's in its place. These creatures are just so elusive. There's something about them. And then I see Crypto Reality posting pictures of this face, this thing that I saw. And that's what brought it right all back to me, because I had done the wrong thing. I didn't face it. I changed things instead of facing it until I saw it again. So here I am. I'm in the circus, and without it, I'm a lonely clown.
So you saw it again?
I saw pictures of the same type of creature.
Yeah, I saw the picture you posted. The one with the kabuki mask face, your friend, and along with the body of that possibly hoaxed photograph. I could, the way you told that story, I could totally get a picture of what you were actually looking at. I could
look at Big Show, the wrestler. That's essentially what I was looking at. Built just like that, except his arms were long. Yeah, Paul White. He's 7 foot tall, about 500 pounds. He's not Schwarzeneggered up. He's barrel shaped, just like this thing. This thing was as wide at the hips as it was at the shoulders, relatively. It wasn't this muscular type of 10-foot tall creature. This thing was a little bit taller than me. Might have been 7 feet tall. I don't know. But it wasn't 8 feet tall. It wasn't that big. Walking up, the thing was, he was slipping the way he was moving. And I think he was walking using his arms to pull himself like this through the thicket. But when I saw it, I'm thinking, this is a big 400-pound fat dude. And he's wearing something. This is why I was all thinking, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's just an amateur out here messing everything up, you know. And it was just not the case. It was one of these creatures. There's no doubt in my mind. I wasn't dreaming. I'm not mistaken. It wasn't a bear. And I hear people say that too. I think people see bears and think it's Sasquatch. Well, for the
That's
normal person,
ridiculous.
Sasquatch is not on your radar. It should be the other way around, where you see a Sasquatch and think it's a bear first. Just like I did. I saw one. I thought it was a guy. If I'd been anywhere else but where I was, I would have recognized what it was, I believe, before I did. But because I saw this black dude, it's all that lives around here is black families. It's their property. That was what got me. That was what got me. That's what made me wave. That was the whole problem, I think, from the beginning. If I would have noticed what it was, I think maybe it wouldn't have had that hard hit, maybe. I don't know.
So he wasn't gliding like people talk about Bigfoot gliding. Some of them glide.
I don't really remember.
This was stumbling.
It looked like he was lumbering, like he was tired. And so I was wondering, why doesn't he just come up right here? Because he can't. He's too big and too tired. You know, it's about a 6-foot drop off right there.
Mm.
But when he got to the tree and he stood up and squared up, and he just looked a lot bigger than he did, and his super long arms and huge forearm, and just it was a monster. It was a boogeyman, without a doubt. There was no hair on his face, just like the picture I showed in there that Albert Burlingame got down in Brooksville, Florida. It's exactly the same thing that I saw. Black face, apex head. So of course you only see, this much of it sticking out with his head out, but you see that face, and he's even got a pointed nose, just like the one that I saw, except his nose was kind of down, pointed down.
You're going to be on Hidden Existence in 2 weeks, aren't you? With Larry Batson, and Larry's going to draw.
Really?
Yeah. And we're on tomorrow night as well, Larry. We've got Carl Gotro on, so that'll be a good one. It's not tonight. I know people got notifications.
That's why you had to leave earlier, right?
I put the wrong day on it. Yeah, it's confusing. So that's tomorrow night at 7:30 Central.
There are a lot of interesting things coming up. Bigfoot Odyssey is joining with Crypto Reality at the end of May. We're Mark and I are putting together a production, Crypto Odyssey Productions, and it's going to be called Investigation Impossible. We're going to be doing a travel show, and essentially what Bigfoot Odyssey does with making the Odysseys, except we're adding an investigation. So it'll be 2 days, 2 nights, and we're going to try to go to Donnie Miller's place, and that will be our first episode. I still have yet to talk to Donnie, but when I did talk to him, he's all about it. Come on down. So I think that's where we're going to go first. We're going to tell his story in Bigfoot Odyssey style, and then Mark Zassky is going to do his research in the area, and we're going to put it all together. And we haven't decided what platform we're going to put it on yet, but this is what's coming up for us. And in the interim, I am working on 168 hours. So when it gets done, it'll be done. Still thinking around July we'll be done. I know someone made a comment about that. They went all the way down there. They haven't showed us anything. Well, if everybody's listening and paying attention, we told you when it would. We told you when it would be out.
We were going to do it live, 24-hour, 24/7 live.
That's right.
Where was that?
It was supposed to
Where
be.
was that?
Yeah. Well, where was this live? 24 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
People that actually paid attention and knew. I've got my brand new assistant, Miss Frankie Brown, has got our t-shirts ordered, the 168 hours t-shirts, and those will be available to members only. So yes, so if you are a member of Bigfoot Odyssey, you will be able to, and we'll do drawings for those every show that we do. We'll give away 2 or 3. I ordered 110, I think. I just have to pay for them, and I'll do that tomorrow. So those shirts will be in the 168 hours t-shirts. They're not for sale. They're strictly to be given away for our members. Now we are doing the giveaway for donation. Your $10 donation to the PayPal gets you entered in. It's about 5 different or 6 different drawings. We're giving away the $6,000 thermal drone. the 2 Moza gimbals. They're about $400 a piece. 128 gig iPad mini. It's all stuff's brand new. The 40,000 milliamp hour battery banks. We're going to give away t-shirts. We're going to give away a lot of stuff. So we appreciate everyone. I think there's about 180 people entered in right now. So you've got about a week to enter into that. And we appreciate everyone that's put in, and we're going to give that stuff away on Cinco de Mayo right here on Researchers Report.
Nice.
So,
Cool.
what time is your show tomorrow, Daniela?
7:30.
7:30 p.m. Central on Hidden Existence. They're going to be drawing. Larry Batson is going to be drawing Carl Gotro's Bigfoot that he saw. So, and in 2 weeks, he's going to be drawing mine. Just go get a picture of Scottie Pippen and start there. That's what it reminds me of every time I think about it. Just that nose and the way the face was shaped. So,
Just got to say thank you, Brenda.
thank you, Brenda.
And there was another one. Sorry, it went a little bit ago, but thank you.
Now, if you guys are looking for entries to the drawing, you got to do it on the PayPal. Now I'll come back here, and it's $10, and that gives you 8 chances or to win something. Oh, and ordered 100 more of the Bigfoot Odyssey 168-hour wristbands. We're going to give those out to members only also. So thank you to everyone that is a member of Bigfoot Odyssey. We do appreciate your contributions, and we've got another 168 coming in November. I'm still taking interviews, by the way, for about another week. I think I got like 40 people on the list, and I'll be choosing 30 of those. That must have been Cornell.
I think so. I think it's
Yeah,
got both of us now.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat.
It's usually me or Daniela.
Yeah.
So
Anyway.
it.
So yeah, go and check out Cornell's channel as well. I've been putting the link through.
Get him to 1,000. Come on, y'all. You can do this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just looking to see what it is.
That's one more person that you'll be able to follow in the field in real time. To me, I love anybody that goes live from the field. I wish more people would do that. So hopefully once you reach your 1,000, you'll be able to go live from the field, that you'll do that.
Yeah. In these areas that Dave goes to, there's no signal, but I've got like 50 subscribers since we started this.
How far do you have to go?
250.
250.
That's easy. That's a breeze. It's been going up organically, like a few a day anyway. So I try to mix it up. I try to get, sometimes it's just a walk in the woods and like looking around, but people really seem to like that live kind of just walking in the woods and talking, and people sometimes like that more than the interviews, which is strange. I never expected that, but when you've got something for them and you have some philosophy to lay down on them, like down in Oklahoma with stuff happening, that like Dave, his first video from our latest Oklahoma trip, he got huge reaction to that.
Yeah, every $10 is an entry, Kevin. So if, a lot of people are entered 2 or 3 times. $20 would be 2 entries and so on. Only thing I will say is everyone gets a number, and as you're entered, that's your number. You can't win twice on the same number. That's just not fair. So if we happen to pull the same number out of the hat twice, and you've already won once on it, you'll have to win on another number. So to me, that's our only real rule, the whole thing. And
that's fair enough, isn't it?
Somebody's going to win this stuff. I don't care who wins it. Who won the last one? Oh, Roxanne Corries. She lives in New Mexico somewhere. I don't know. That's where I sent the thing to anyway. She won the last drone we gave away. You know how many times she entered?
Once. Wow.
One time.
Wow.
Entered once, pulled her number out. So, hey, if it's meant for you, you're going to win it. Daniela's going to I'm going to have the list of people, and Daniela's going to have the number generator. She'll draw the numbers out. So y'all can get mad at her. If you don't win, it's on her. It's her fault.
Yeah. I was going to enter, but it cost you more money to send me the thing.
So, I know. I got to hope and pray somebody from the United States wins the thing.
Yeah,
Send it overseas. Doesn't matter. That's all part of it. And we just appreciate everyone that has helped us out. And we're going to use that to help us get the new drone. The new drone, it's about $14,000 for the new drone. Of course, this just kind of gets us a little closer, but that's what we're going to need to do what we want to do. I went through and looked at different drones, and the Mavic makes a good one now. It's about $7,000, but it doesn't zoom. I want something that zooms in thermal. And the one I'm looking at is the Parrot. It's one of their search and rescue drones is what it's for, which is probably why it's expensive. It's a 6-way blade instead of quad. So I don't know if it flies different or what. I don't know. But I also have to go and take the class to be licensed to fly it. So we're 100% legal. So all that stuff will be done. All right, we're at the end of our hour. Danielle, I know you're ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
I've got to go to work, so I'll be up all night anyway.
It's 1 o'clock there, Danielle, is it?
It's not. It's 2 o'clock.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I'm used to it.
I know by now, right?
Yeah.
What else? We got anything else?
Just not I can think of.
Well, Friday night, pretty sure we'll have a late show.
We've got Bradley on. Bradley is on Hidden Existence on Saturday night.
Oh, that's right. Brad. Saturday is at 6, right?
It'll be 6 p.m. Central. Yeah.
6 p.m. Central. So Friday night we'll have our late show, 9 o'clock p.m. Central. Not sure who I'm gonna have on yet. Was thinking about seeing if Jimmy Barr and Bobby come back on. We'll see. But that'll be our show for Friday. Thanks everybody for joining us here tonight. Cornell, thank you. Hopefully you'll get to 1,000 here very soon.
Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Long time fan.
For sure.
Thank you, Tony.
Tony Lombardo, new member. Welcome.
Excellent.